It was only in existence for 2 years, okay? And both of my nephews were there for both 2 years. There's only like 100 guys who were in that...
There he is in that famous black hat.
Right. In fact, if you run this back, if you run it back,
yeah.
if you replay it, you'll see them holding the brochure for Eshkol Academy. Okay? And my nephews went there, and like last month I went and stayed in Maryland. I stayed in an apartment, and every guy in that apartment was a member of Eshkol. They were all, this is the Eshkol crowd. Right? This was the, and if you do the wiki on Jack Abramoff, there's a link, and Eshkol has its own wiki, and it's basically, it was a, he took all this money, this stolen money, and he put it into this
Jewish causes. Yeah.
No, not even causes, just one.
Oh,
he built his own
day school.
High school. It's a yeshiva high school.
Yeah.
And he brought in
David Lapham.
He brought in big time rabbanim. He brought big rabbis in. One of my nephews said it was the best he ever learned Torah in his life. They had really good rebbeim, good rabbis there. They also had
Eshkol Academy.
Yeah. They also had promises of all these sports. They were going to have an ice rink, and they were going to have coaching and hockey. A guy, Wayne Gretzky, was going to come, and it was like all this money. There was like spare no expense, And he was throwing in all this money, and they were going to have kosher food. And it was just unbelievable. Like this big restaurant there, big cafeteria, and it was going to be like the most fanciest thing. But it never happened, because like a year after the first year, he started getting investigated, and then like I was there for Pesach of 2004, and there was talk that they may not finish the school year because there was no money left to pay the teachers. Yeah. And one of my nephews was scheduled to graduate like a couple months later. He was in the graduating class. And he was like, how am I going to get into college if I don't show that I graduated high school? Because my high school ceased to exist because it was funded by some guy who's getting hauled his ass off to jail. Because there was no other body else funding money into this thing. It was a one-man operation.
Huh.
Yeah, so that's what I want to say. So everybody should go check that out. I'm going to see it. I want to see it on... I haven't been to a movie in over 10 years. That's a fact. But I may go to this, and I may go on opening night.
Huh.
Yeah. So that's what I want to say about that. Any questions on that? Anything you want to add?
No, that's great. Yeah, I want to see that too. So he was very
maybe we'll go together. We'll double date.
Maybe.
We'll both get some shikszes and we'll go. We'll get we could both get porn chicks. I mean, I know some. Yeah, we should go to that.
And we'll wear the same hat that Jack Abramoff wore when he busted, that big black... What's that called, a Sabino or...?
Fedora.
Fedora, okay, yeah.
You know what? I've actually worn sweatpants that said Eshkol Academy on them.
Huh.
Yeah. I should try to get a pair of those again. Alright, so you want to talk about the Parshas?
Yeah.
Are we there? Or you want to talk about that woman that Jewish woman?
Oh, okay, so there's a Jewish woman, Esther, who's applying to be on America's Next Top Model, and
look at the camera when you talk.
She's getting interviewed by Tyra Banks and talks about her religious background. Esther says she's a modern Orthodox Jew. She was born in Jerusalem, and she keeps the Sabbath, and she explains what it means to keep the Sabbath. And then the Tyra Banks tells her, well, you'll have to work 7 days a week if you got to be on this show. Are you willing to do that and give up the Sabbath? And it takes her, in the editing, who knows how long it took her in real life, but it edits so that she thinks about it for about 2 seconds and says that she's willing to work 7 days a week. But, I mean, that was one thing, but then she talks about her physique. She's a 30G, and normally runway models aren't that voluptuous. And then she takes off her shirt, and she's wearing a bra and panties, and she walks up and down the stage. She's this 5'9" modern Orthodox girl.
I would not call her modern Orthodox.
What would you call her?
I would call her Jewish. She's a Jew, and she's fry. She's secular. She's a secular Jew. She grew up with some level.
She went
of,
to an Orthodox Jewish day school.
She went to
Maimonides Academy.
Yeah, she
in Boston.
grew up with some level of frumkeit at home, and she rejected it, and she's done. And now she's working on Shabbos in front of the whole world, and she took off her top and showed Tyra and her what she's got. And she's not modern Orthodox. She's fry. She's a secular Jew who fried out. And I just think that the only thing sad about the entire thing is, why did she even have to mention that she grew up that way? She could just say, I'm from Jerusalem. I'm some secular bitch and want to see my tits, and that's it. That's what she should have done. Why did she have to drag Orthodoxy down into it? It's like, she didn't have to mention it.
But hey, I'd date her.
You would?
Yeah, she's hot.
Fry.
Oh, she could come back. I'd bring her back.
Oh, yeah.
I think we could help each other in different ways. She could help me in some things, and I could help her in some areas. You're
desperate is what it is. You're desperate and you're horny, because that's ridiculous. She doesn't care, but she's done. What's her thing that is her career. That's what's important to her.
She was a 30G.
So
Rabbi.
what? So what?
I'm a simple man, what can I say? I'm not complex.
You know what? I wouldn't. I shouldn't say this, but she lost me when she walked in the room and she was wearing pants.
They were ugly pants, but when she took them off.
No, it was like she's wearing pants. She's already not really from. So I was like, I'm not interested in her. I think it would have been worse if she was wearing a skirt, like a long skirt, but she just pulled it down on TV. I think I would have freaked.
Walking the pole.
Yeah, no, like she walked in, she walked in and she had like a skirt on, like some, like some karate chick, and then they go like, oh, take your skirt off, and she just like wiggles it out. I think I would have freaked out. I think that would have been like too much.
Yeah, well, they say the longer the skirt, the quicker it comes off.
They say that.
Yeah. Robinson.
I also was a little bit taken back when Tyra asked her to show her tits, because that seems like something that a guy would say. Like some guy director would say, okay, take your top off, let's see your titties. And because you're in Hollywood, like you expect I wouldn't expect a woman to say that. When she said, okay, take your top off, I was like, my respect for Tyra went down. Not that I knew her, but it was like, ugh. All right, so are we done with that?
Yeah.
Okay, we had to get a little sex in there because we have to keep the ratings up. All right, so this week we have two parshas, as Levi alluded to before. And then why do we have two parshas? Because one is on Shabbos, which is coming up, but there's also a special one that we read this week, which we read on Simchas Torah. On Simchas Torah, which is on Friday, we read a specific Torah portion that's only read on Simchas Torah. And it's the only parsha of the entire 52 that are in the Chumash that's ever read not on Shabbos. Mm-hmm. All the other ones are always read on Shabbos. This one's read on Simchas Torah, and it doesn't matter what day of the week that it falls on, we're going to read it. Okay? And it's the last parsha of the year, and Simchas Torah is a celebration of the Torah that we finished reading all of them. So this year, this time...
You need some water?
No, but I'm getting a sore throat. I don't know. You sure you're not still sick?
I couldn't have gotten you sick in 40 minutes.
Oh.
Particularly if we haven't exchanged bodily fluids.
Okay. No, I'm thinking it was like in the air or something. So, what is it? What was I saying here? That Simchas Torah is a celebration of completing reading all the Torah. So, right now we're completing this week learning all of the Torah. So, give ourselves a round of applause because we went through the entire Torah this year, and we're going to start it again, starting on Shabbos, which is the next day. We're going to start reading from the beginning of the Chumash, which is Parshas Bereishis. So, there's two. There's V'zois HaBracha, which is the last parsha, which we read on Simchas Torah. And then there's Parshas Bereishis, which we're going to read on Shabbos. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the first one first. V'zois HaBracha, which is the last parsha of the Chumash. V'zois HaBracha means, and this is the blessing. V'zois HaBracha. And in it, Moses blesses the tribes of the Jewish people right before he dies.